Taejin watched the alien overseer press the hot metal brand against another human's arm. The smell of burning flesh filled the air as the mark burned deep into the skin. The woman screamed but could not move because the metal restraints held her tight to the table. Her eyes looked at Taejin with pure hate, but he could do nothing to help her. He was just another slave, like all the rest. The overseer was a Vorthak. Its body looked like living crystal that changed colors when it moved. The creature had no face that humans could understand, but somehow it could speak their language. "This one goes to the mining world of Kepler 442b, it said in a voice that sounded like breaking glass. "She will work in the deep tunnels until she dies." Taejin remembered when he wore the uniform of Earth's military. He had been a commander then, with ships under his control and soldiers who trusted him. Now he wore dirty clothes and had the same brand on his arm that they were giving to the woman. The mark showed that he belonged to the Galactic Council like a piece of equipment or a farm animal. 3 years had passed since the vote. Every species in the galaxy had raised their hand to say yes when the Council asked if humans should become slaves. Not one voice spoke for Earth. Not one vote said that humans deserved freedom. The crystal beings voted yes. The insect-like Kalari voted yes. The ancient Nexari with their glowing eyes voted yes. Even the small trading species that humans had helped before voted yes. The reason they gave was simple. Humans were too stupid to rule themselves. The alien scientists had done tests and said that human brains were not good enough for important decisions. They said humans were only good for hard work and following orders. The galaxy would be safer and better if humans did what they were told by smarter species. But Taejin knew the truth was different. He had seen the real test results before Earth fell. Dr. Hyewan had shown him the data that the aliens tried to hide. Humans were not stupid at all. In fact, they learned faster than most alien species. They solved problems in ways that surprised everyone. The aliens were not trying to help the galaxy. They were afraid. Dr. Hyewan worked in the science section of the slave facility. She pretended to be just another worker, but she was really studying everything she could about alien technology. During the day, she cleaned equipment and carried supplies for the real scientists. At night, she took apart pieces of alien machines to see how they worked. She had learned more about their technology in 3 years than they thought any human could learn in a lifetime. Taejin found her in the storage room late that night. She was looking at a small device through a broken microscope she had fixed herself. Her hands were steady even though she was tired from working all day. "What did you find this time?" he asked quietly. She looked up and smiled, but her eyes were serious. "This is a communication device from a Kalari ship," she said. "I think I understand how their quantum entanglement system works now. It's actually quite simple once you see the pattern." Taejin shook his head. The aliens said humans were too stupid to understand basic science. Here was Hyewan taking apart their most advanced technology like it was a child's toy. "Have you told anyone else about this?" "Only Jun-ho," she said. "He's been working on the power systems. Between the two of us, we think we can build our own communication device, maybe even contact other humans on different worlds." Jun-ho was young but smart. Before the slavery, he had been an engineer working on Earth's first faster-than-light ships. Now he fixed broken equipment for alien masters who treated him like he was barely smart enough to hold a wrench. But like Hyewan, he was learning. Every day he saw more of how alien technology really worked. The next morning brought another transport ship full of new slaves. Taejin had to stand with the other supervisors and watch as families were separated. Children went to training facilities, where they would learn to serve alien masters. Adults went to work sites across the galaxy. Old people went to medical facilities where aliens studied human biology. A young girl about 10 years old was crying as they took her from her mother. The mother tried to fight, but the guards used shock weapons that made her fall to the ground. The girl screamed for her mother until a Nexari guard injected something into her neck that made her go quiet and still. Taejin felt anger burning in his chest, but he could not show it. Any sign of resistance meant punishment or death. He had seen too many humans die for showing their real feelings. The aliens wanted them to be grateful for their slavery. They said humans were lucky to have species that cared enough to guide them and protect them from their own stupidity. That evening, Taejin met with Hyewan and Jun-ho in secret. They had found a place in the old storage tunnels where the alien security devices could not see them. Other humans had started to join their meetings. There was Kyung-soo, who worked in the food preparation area. There was Namju, who cleaned the alien living quarters. There was Dong-woo, who maintained the transport vehicles. "I've been thinking about what you said," Tae-jin told Hyewan, "about the real test results. Why would they lie about our intelligence if they just wanted workers?" Hyewan put down the piece of technology she was working on. "Because workers don't need to be stupid," she said. "Slaves do. If humans knew how smart they really were, they might start asking why they have to serve species that are not any smarter than they are." Junho nodded. "I've been watching how the aliens work together," he said. "They're not united at all. They compete against each other constantly. They make deals and break them. They lie and cheat and fight. The only thing they all agree on is keeping humans as slaves. Because we're the threat," Kyung-soo said quietly. "They've seen what humans can do when we work together. We built cities and ships and art and music. We explored space and solved problems and dreamed of bigger things. They're not trying to help us. They're trying to stop us." The meetings continued, night after night. More humans joined. They shared information about alien weaknesses in technology and politics. They learned that the Vorthak and Kalari hated each other, but worked together because they both feared human potential. They discovered that the Nexari were not as ancient and wise as they claimed. They found out that many of the smaller species only voted for human slavery because the bigger species threatened them. Slowly, a plan began to form. It would take years, and many humans would die, but they could see a path to freedom. Hyewan would continue studying alien technology until she could build weapons and ships. Junho would map every alien facility and find their weak points. Tae-jin would train humans in secret to fight when the time came. The galaxy thought humans were broken. They thought 3 years of slavery had crushed the human spirit forever. They were wrong. Humans were learning and planning and growing stronger every day. When the time came for the galaxy to see what humans could really do, they would discover that some species should never be pushed too far. The rebellion was coming, and the aliens had no idea what they had created by trying to chain the human race. So Young crouched behind the broken machinery and watched the alien patrol move past her hiding spot. The 3 Kalari guards walked on their 6 legs like giant insects, checking every corner of the mining facility. Their compound eyes could see in many directions at once, but they were looking for workers who might be stealing equipment or food. They were not looking for a former Earth naval captain who had learned to move like a shadow. 14 years had passed since the first human transport ships arrived at Proxima Centauri B. 14 years of mining rare metals from deep underground tunnels while alien overseers watched every move. 14 years of humans dying from exhaustion and accidents and punishment for small mistakes. But also 14 years of learning and planning and building something that would surprise their captors. The mining facility produced materials that went into alien warships and technology. So Young had studied the operation for months and knew exactly which systems to target. The power generator was heavily guarded, but the cooling system was not. If the cooling failed, the entire facility would shut down for weeks while they fixed it. More importantly, the explosion would destroy millions of credits worth of alien military equipment. She moved quickly through the maintenance tunnels that were too small for most alien species. Her team had mapped every passage and vent in the facility over the past year. They knew where every camera and sensor was placed. They had learned the patrol schedules and guard rotations. Tonight, everything had to work perfectly. The communication device in her ear made a soft clicking sound. That was the signal from Ki-woo that the other teams were in position. Ki-woo called himself the architect, and for good reason. He had designed every part of tonight's operation, from his hidden base in the asteroid belt between 2 star systems. No alien authority knew he existed, but humans across dozens of worlds followed his plans. So Young reached the cooling control room and began placing the explosive charges that Yoonji had made from stolen medical supplies. Yoonji was a doctor who had discovered many useful things while treating injured humans. She learned that most alien species had biological weaknesses that humans did not. She also learned that many human medicines could be turned into powerful weapons with the right knowledge. The charges were small, but they would cause a chain reaction that would cripple the facility. So Young set the timer for 30 minutes, which would give her team enough time to escape, but not enough time for the aliens to find and stop the explosion. She began moving back through the tunnels toward the meeting point where her people waited. Behind her, the facility continued its normal operations. Hundreds of humans worked the night shift mining and processing materials under alien supervision. Most of them did not know about the rebellion yet. Ki-Woo had decided that information should spread slowly to avoid detection. Only the most trusted humans knew about the coordinated resistance that was growing across the galaxy. So Young's team included former military officers and engineers and scientists who had been captured when Earth fell. There was Hyun-Woo, who had been an explosives expert in the Earth Defense Force. There was Min Young, who had designed security systems for civilian facilities. There was Seok Jin, who had studied alien languages and could understand their communications. They met at an abandoned equipment storage area 2 kilometers from the main facility. The humans who worked there had been relocated months ago after a tunnel collapse that was not really an accident. So Young's people had caused the collapse to create a safe meeting place where alien surveillance could not reach them. All charges are set, So Young reported. We have 25 minutes to reach the evacuation point. Hyun-Woo checked his equipment. The distraction charges at the transport depot will go off first, he said. That should draw the security forces away from the main facility when the real explosion happens. Min Young was monitoring alien communications with a device she had built from scrapped parts. They're reporting some minor equipment failures in Sector 7, she said. Nothing that concerns them yet. The team moved quickly through the underground, passages that connected different parts of the mining complex. These tunnels had been built by the first human workers who arrived on Proxima Centauri B. The aliens thought they were just for moving equipment and supplies. They did not know that humans had been slowly modifying them to create a hidden transportation network. As they walked, Seok Jin shared the latest intelligence from Ki-Woo's network. Operations are planned for tonight on 6 different worlds, he said quietly. If everything works, we will disrupt alien military production across this entire sector of space. So Young nodded, but she was thinking about the bigger picture. Tonight's attacks were just the beginning. Ki-Woo had been planning something much larger for months. He had been gathering information about alien fleet movements and supply lines and political tensions. He was preparing for the day when, scattered, human resistance would become an organized rebellion. The evacuation point was a natural cave system that the geological surveys had missed. So Young's team had stocked it with supplies and equipment over many months. From here they could hide, for weeks if necessary, while alien security forces searched for the saboteurs. They could also monitor alien communications and plan their next operations. They reached the cave just as the first explosion lit up the night sky. The transport depot erupted in flames and smoke as Hyun-Woo's distraction charges destroyed several alien vehicles. Emergency sirens began wailing across the facility as security teams rushed toward the fire. 8 minutes later, the main explosion shook the ground like an earthquake. The cooling system failure triggered exactly the chain reaction that Yoon-ji had predicted. Secondary explosions destroyed the power grid and the main processing equipment. The night sky glowed orange as fires spread through the facility. So Young watched through binoculars as alien emergency teams tried to contain the damage. She counted at least 12 Kalari guards running toward the main facility. 2 Vorthak. Supervisors were shouting orders that no one seemed to understand. A Nexari administrator was speaking rapidly into a communication device, probably calling for help from orbital ships. Estimated damage? She asked Hyun-Woo. He smiled for the first time in months. Complete destruction of primary mining equipment, he said. Production will be stopped for at least 6 weeks while they bring in replacement machinery. The materials they lost tonight would have built 3 cruiser-class warships. Min Young was still monitoring communications. They're reporting sabotage to the Planetary Authority, she said. They suspect human involvement, but they have no evidence and no suspects. That was the beauty of Ki-Woo's planning. Every operation was designed to look like it could have been an accident or equipment failure. The aliens were beginning to suspect organized resistance, but they could not prove it. More importantly, they could not figure out how scattered human workers were coordinating such sophisticated attacks. Over the following weeks, similar incidents occurred on other worlds. A weapons manufacturing facility on Kepler 438b suffered a reactor failure that destroyed an entire production line. A shipyard orbiting Wolf 359 lost half its construction capability when a computer virus corrupted their control systems. A research station studying human biology had a containment breach that released experimental organisms throughout the facility. Each incident by itself looked like bad luck or careless mistakes. Together, they represented millions of credits in damage and months of delays to alien military projects. More importantly, they proved that humans were not the broken slaves that their captors believed them to be. Kaiwu's messages began reaching more humans across the galaxy. Hidden communication networks carried his words from world to world. He told them that Earth had not forgotten its children. He promised that freedom was possible if they worked together. He gave them hope that the galaxy would learn what humans could really accomplish when they stopped pretending to be helpless. The rebellion was no longer just an idea shared by a few desperate people. It was becoming a movement that connected humans across dozens of star systems. Every successful operation brought more volunteers. Every alien facility that suffered mysterious failures made their captors more nervous and suspicious. So Young received new orders from Kiwu 2 months after the mining facility attack. She was to begin training humans for direct combat operations. The time for hidden sabotage was ending. Soon the galaxy would see humans not as workers or slaves, but as warriors who had learned to fight with stolen technology and desperate courage. The aliens had made their greatest mistake when they decided that humans were too weak and stupid to be dangerous. They were about to discover that enslaving an entire species was a very different thing from defeating them. The chains they had used to bind humanity were about to become weapons in human hands. The Great Chamber of the Galactic Council had never seen such anger before. Representatives from 47 different species filled the curved seating areas with their voices raised in fury and fear. The holographic displays showed burning facilities and destroyed ships from across the galaxy. What had started as isolated incidents of equipment failure had become coordinated attacks that could no longer be ignored. Ambassador Sang Woo stood in the center of the chamber, wearing the simple gray uniform that marked him as a human representative. He was the first human to address the council since the slavery vote 18 years ago. His presence here today meant that everything was about to change in ways that none of the alien species were prepared for. The Vorthak Prime speaker's crystalline body flashed red with rage as it spoke. The human infestation has become a threat to galactic security, it declared in its voice like breaking glass. These creatures have shown they cannot be trusted with even basic labor duties. They have used their positions to sabotage critical infrastructure and military assets. The Kalari Hive Queen's compound eyes focused on Sang Woo as her translator spoke for her. Our biological studies confirm that humans possess an abnormal capacity for deception and violence, the mechanical voice said. They are not suitable for continued existence in civilized space. Other species added their voices to the chorus of condemnation. The Nexari Council elder spoke of humans spreading like a disease through the galaxy's workforce. The Zephyrian Trade Collective complained about economic losses from human sabotage. The Altarian Defense Union demanded immediate action to protect their military installations. Sang Woo listened to it all with calm patience. Behind his quiet expression, he was remembering the hidden fleet that Admiral Dae Hyun had built in the outer regions of the Sol system. He was thinking about the weapons that Min Seo had designed using stolen alien technology and human ingenuity. He was considering the thousands of humans who had spent nearly 2 decades learning everything they could about their captors' weaknesses. The vote was inevitable. One by one, the species representatives raised their appendages or spoke their agreement or activated their approval devices. The resolution was simple and final. All humans throughout the galaxy would be eliminated to prevent further damage to galactic civilization. The vote was unanimous, just like it had been 18 years ago. When the chamber fell silent, Sang Woo stepped forward to the speaking platform. "You have made your decision," he said, in a voice that carried clearly through the translation systems. "Now hear humanity's response." The recording device he activated projected his words not just to the council chamber, but to every human settlement and slave facility across the galaxy. It also transmitted to hidden receivers that would carry his message to Earth itself. What he said next would be remembered long after the council chamber was nothing but rubble. "For 18 years you have told us that we are inferior," Sang Woo began. You said we were too stupid to govern ourselves and too weak to deserve freedom. You scattered our people across the galaxy and worked them to death in your mines and factories. You separated families and destroyed our civilization because you believed we could do nothing to stop you." His voice remained calm, but every human listening could hear the steel beneath the words. "You were wrong about our intelligence. You were wrong about our capacity for learning and adaptation. Most importantly, you were wrong about what would happen if you pushed us too far." The alien representatives began to shift nervously in their seats. Some of them were beginning to realize that this human was not begging for mercy or trying to negotiate. He was delivering a message that sounded very much like a declaration of war. "You asked us to accept slavery," Sang-Woo continued. "We gave you compliance while we learned everything we could about your technology and your weaknesses. You asked us to be grateful for your guidance. We gave you the appearance of gratitude while we built networks and weapons and strategies that you never suspected." The Vortak Prime speaker tried to interrupt, but Sang-Woo's voice rose above the alien protests. "Now you ask us to accept extinction. Very well, we accept your challenge. But understand this. When you decided to destroy humanity, you declared war on a species that has spent 18 years preparing for this moment." The transmission ended, and Sang-Woo walked calmly from the chamber. The alien representatives erupted in angry discussion about the humans' arrogance and threats. They activated their military communication systems to coordinate the fleets that would carry out the final solution to the human problem. None of them seriously believed that a slave species with stolen technology could threaten the combined might of galactic civilization. They were about to learn how wrong they could be. Admiral Dae-hyun received Sang-Woo's transmission in the command center of the hidden base that humans had built in the Kuiper Belt. Around him, dozens of officers and technicians worked at stations controlling the most powerful fleet that Earth had ever assembled. Every ship had been built from salvaged alien technology and powered by human determination to survive. "All fleet commanders report ready status," reported Captain Yuri from the communication station. She had been a transport pilot before the slavery began. Now she coordinated the movements of 200 warships that the aliens had no idea existed. "Weapons systems fully charged," announced Commander Jae-woo from the tactical station. He had learned alien weapons technology by maintaining their equipment as a slave. Now he controlled firepower that could destroy entire star systems. Min Seo's voice came over the internal communication system from the weapons laboratory. "All specialized systems are armed and ready," she said. "The biological and technological countermeasures are loaded and targeted according to species-specific vulnerabilities." Dae-hyun looked at the tactical display showing incoming alien fleets from 12 different directions. Over 3,000 ships were converging on Earth, with enough firepower to turn the planet into molten slag. The aliens expected to find a defenseless world protected only by whatever primitive defenses humans might have cobbled together from scraps. Instead, they found a fortress that had been 18 years in the making. Every asteroid in the outer system had been converted into a weapons platform. Every moon around the gas giants bristled with defensive systems that used the aliens' own technology against them. Most importantly, Earth itself was surrounded by a fleet that had been designed specifically to exploit every weakness that enslaved humans had discovered about their captors. The Battle of Earth began when the Vorthak First Fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel near Neptune. They expected to sweep aside any resistance and proceed directly to Earth for the final bombardment. Instead, they encountered weapons that turned their own crystalline hulls into prisons that trapped them inside their ships. The Vorthak Fleet died without firing a single shot, as their bodies were consumed by resonance frequencies that Min Seo had designed specifically for their physiology. The Kalari swarm attacked from the direction of Jupiter, with 1,000 ships moving in perfect coordination. They had never lost a battle because their hive mind allowed them to react faster than any individual commander. But humans had learned to disrupt their quantum communication networks. When the hive mind suddenly went silent, the Kalari ships lost coordination and began firing on each other in confusion. Wave after wave of alien fleets arrived expecting easy victory and found instead a nightmare of impossible weapons and perfectly prepared defenses. The Nixari discovered that their ancient technology was useless against human computer viruses that had been specifically written to exploit their systems. The Altarians found that their heavy armor meant nothing against weapons that attacked their ships from the inside out. For 3 days, the battle raged across the Sol system. When it ended, every attacking fleet had been destroyed, and Earth remained untouched. More importantly, humanity now possessed the largest collection of alien warships and technology in the galaxy. The slaves had become the masters in a single, decisive battle. Daehyun sent a message to every world where humans remained in bondage. "The fleets sent to destroy Earth are gone," he announced. "Any species that continues to hold humans as slaves will face the same fate. You have 3 days to release all human prisoners and evacuate your forces from human territory." The galaxy had asked Earth for war, and humanity had responded with such devastating force that the balance of power shifted overnight. The species that had voted for human extinction now faced extinction themselves unless they surrendered immediately. The age of alien dominance was ending, and the age of human supremacy had begun. General Wu Jin stood on the bridge of the human flagship, watching another alien world surrender without a fight. The planet below had been a major Kalari colony with billions of inhabitants and strong orbital defenses. Now, white flags of surrender filled the space around the planet as the insect-like aliens begged for mercy from the species they had once enslaved. 4 years had passed since the Battle of Earth, and the galaxy had learned to fear the sound of human ships dropping out of faster-than-light travel. Every world that had participated in human slavery was now under human control or had been abandoned by its former inhabitants. The alien species that had once ruled the galaxy were fleeing to the outer rim territories, hoping that humans would not follow them there. They were wrong about that too. "Sir, we're receiving surrender transmissions from all orbital stations," reported Communications Officer Hee-Jin. She had been a child when the slavery began and had grown up in alien work camps. Now she commanded the technology that decided which species lived and which species faced extinction. "Any signs of resistance?" Wu Jin asked. "None, sir," replied Tactical Officer Young-ho. "Their defense fleets are powering down weapons and requesting permission to evacuate the system." Wu Jin nodded. This was the pattern that had repeated itself on dozens of worlds over the past 4 years. The aliens would see human ships approaching and immediately begin broadcasting their surrender. They had learned that resistance only made their defeat more complete and their punishment more severe. The strategy was Wu Jin's creation, and it was brutally effective. He called it the Cascade Strategy because each victory made the next one easier. When humans conquered a world, they seized all of its technology and resources and military assets. These were immediately integrated into the human fleet, making it larger and more powerful for the next battle. More importantly, the psychological impact of each defeat spread fear throughout the remaining alien territories. Commander Yu Jin's voice came over the communication system from her assault ship. "Retribution Corps is ready to begin planetary occupation," she announced. "We have identified all former slave facilities and alien administrative centers. Estimate 6 hours for complete control of major population centers." Yu Jin led the elite unit that specialized in taking control of alien worlds after their surrender. The Retribution Corps had perfected the art of using captured alien technology to manage alien populations. They turned the same systems that had once controlled human slaves into tools for managing their former captors. The landing operation began with military precision that would have impressed the old Earth Defense Forces. Hundreds of human ships descended through the atmosphere, carrying the equipment and personnel needed to establish control over billions of alien civilians. Every landing zone had been chosen based on intelligence gathered during the slavery years when human workers had mapped every important facility on the planet. Yu Jin's forces moved quickly to secure the former slave processing centers, where humans had been sorted and assigned to different work details. These facilities were converted into administrative centers where aliens could register for work assignments under the new human government. The irony was not lost on anyone that the buildings where humans had been branded like animals were now where aliens came to ask for jobs and housing. But the human occupation was different from what the aliens had imposed on Earth. Dr. Jae-min had designed systems that were harsh but fair. Aliens who cooperated were treated well and given meaningful work that contributed to galactic reconstruction. Those who resisted or tried to sabotage human operations faced swift punishment, but not the systematic cruelty that humans had endured for 18 years. The difference was that humans remembered what it felt like to be powerless, and they chose not to become the same kind of monsters that had enslaved them. They were conquerors, but they were not genocidal maniacs. They wanted justice and security, not mindless revenge. Wu Jin received regular reports from human fleets operating across the galaxy. Admiral Dae Hyun was leading the assault on the Vorthak, homeworld, which was expected to fall within days. General So Young commanded the forces that were systematically dismantling Nexari military installations throughout their former territory. Captain Hyun Soo was pursuing the remnants of the Altarian fleet toward the Galactic Edge, where they hoped to find sanctuary. The reports all told the same story. Alien resistance was collapsing faster than human forces could advance to accept surrenders. Species that had dominated the galaxy for thousands of years were discovering that their technology and experience meant nothing against human determination and superior strategy. The psychological warfare was as important as the military campaign. Every human victory was broadcast throughout the galaxy using the same communication networks that had once carried alien propaganda about human inferiority. The aliens who had voted for human extinction were now watching their own civilizations crumble as their former slaves systematically conquered everything they had built. Yu Jin reported from the planetary surface 6 hours later. "All major cities are under human control," she announced. "Local Kalari authorities have surrendered their administrative codes and are cooperating with the transition. No significant resistance encountered." "What about the population?" Wu Jin asked. "Approximately 8 billion Kalari civilians," Yu Jin replied. "They're frightened, but compliant. Most of them seem surprised that we're not executing them or forcing them into slave labor. I think they expected us to treat them the way they treated humans. That was the alien mistake that kept repeating itself. They assumed that humans would behave like they did because they could not imagine a species that was capable of restraint. After victory, they expected genocide and got occupation. They expected slavery and got supervised integration into a new galactic order. The human fleet continued its advance toward the next target system, where another alien species waited to learn their fate. Behind them, they left worlds that were already being transformed under human administration. Former slave facilities became schools and hospitals and research centers. Alien populations that had once looked down on humans as inferior now worked alongside human supervisors to rebuild what the war had destroyed. Wu Jin reviewed the strategic situation on his personal display. In 4 years of warfare, humans had conquered nearly 40% of known galactic territory. They controlled the major industrial worlds and trade routes that had once supplied alien military forces. More importantly, they had captured enough alien technology and scientific knowledge to ensure that their advantage would only grow stronger with time. The remaining alien species had retreated to the Outer Rim territories, where they were trying to form some kind of defensive alliance. Intelligence reports suggested they were building new fleets and planning a counterattack that would drive humans back to Earth. They still did not understand that the war was already over and they had lost. Dr. Jamin's latest weapons designs were specifically created to defeat any technology that the aliens might develop. Human scientists had learned everything there was to know about alien capabilities during the slavery years. Now they were using that knowledge to stay several steps ahead of any possible alien innovations. The communications system activated with a priority message from Earth. "General Wu Jin, this is Admiral Dae Hyun," came the familiar voice. "The Vorthak homeworld has surrendered. Their entire crystalline hierarchy has agreed to human administration. We are now in control of their most advanced manufacturing facilities and research installations." Wu Jin smiled as he acknowledged the message. The Vorthak had been the primary advocates for human slavery in the original council vote. Now their homeworld was under human control, and their technology was being used to build more human ships and weapons. Justice had a bitter taste that the aliens were finally learning to appreciate. The tide of ruin that humanity had brought too. The galaxy was nearing its peak. Soon there would be no alien species left with the power to threaten human freedom. The galaxy that had once voted unanimously for human extinction was learning what it meant to face a species that never forgot and never forgave those who had wronged them. Emperor Jin Wu walked through the corridors of what had once been the Galactic Council building and was now the center of human administration for the galaxy. The walls displayed holographic images of human colonies on thousands of worlds and the great ships that carried human authority to the farthest reaches of known space. 23 years had passed since he had been a slave working in alien mines, and now he ruled the very species that had once owned him. The transformation was complete and absolute. Every major alien civilization had either surrendered or been destroyed. The remnants of once proud species now lived on reservation worlds under human supervision. Their children learned human languages in school, and their governments existed only with human permission. The galaxy that had voted for human extinction had become a human empire that stretched from one spiral arm to the other. Chancellor Hyrim met Jin Wu at the entrance to the Great Assembly Hall, where representatives from across the galaxy would soon gather for the annual address. She had been a factory worker on an alien world before the rebellion began. Now she managed the integration of dozens of species into the new galactic order that humans had created from the ashes of alien civilization. "The delegates are arriving," she reported. "All major species are represented, including the new colonial governments from the Outer Rim territories. The Kalari Queen has requested permission to address the assembly about food distribution on their reservation worlds." Jinwu nodded as they walked toward the speaking platform that dominated the center of the hall. "What about the Vorthak situation?" "The crystal beings are adapting well to the new administrative structure," Hayrim replied. "Their technological knowledge has been very useful for improving our manufacturing capabilities. Some of their younger generation are even volunteering for service in human exploration fleets. That was perhaps the strangest development of all. The children of species that had enslaved humanity were now eager to serve under human authority. They had grown up in a galaxy where humans were the dominant power, and many of them seemed genuinely grateful for the stability and fairness that human rule had brought to their worlds. The assembly hall filled with representatives from across the galaxy. Former slave masters sat in seats designed for their species, while human officials managed the proceedings with quiet efficiency. The Nexari delegation looked ancient and tired as they waited to hear what new policies would be announced. The Altarian survivors spoke in whispers about their reduced territory and population. Jin Wu took his place at the speaker's platform and looked out at the gathered delegates. 23 years ago, these same species had voted unanimously to enslave humanity. Today, they waited nervously to hear how their human rulers would allow them to exist for another year. The reversal was so complete that it sometimes seemed like a dream. "Citizens of the galaxy," Jin Wu began, his voice carrying clearly through the translation systems that now served human authority instead of alien pride. "We gather today to review the progress of our civilization and plan for the challenges that lie ahead." The delegates listened with the careful attention that subjects gave to their rulers. There was no anger or resistance in their expressions anymore. The species that had once dominated the galaxy had learned to accept human supremacy as a fact of life that could not be changed. Historian Bo Ram sat in the observation area taking notes for the official record that would preserve this moment for future generations. She had spent years documenting the complete transformation of galactic civilization from alien dominance to human empire. Her work would ensure that the lessons of this period were never forgotten. The statistics that Jin Wu presented told the story of humanity's total victory. Human colonies now existed on over 5,000 worlds. The human fleet included more than 50,000 ships built from captured alien technology and improved by human innovation. Human universities on dozens of worlds were training the next generation of leaders who would guide the galaxy for centuries to come. More importantly, the galaxy was more peaceful and prosperous than it had been in thousands of years. The constant warfare between alien species had ended when humans imposed a single authority over all inhabited worlds. Trade flowed freely under human protection. Scientific research proceeded without the military secrecy that had once hindered progress. Art and culture flourished as species that had once fought each other learned to cooperate under human guidance. The Kalari delegation wishes to express their gratitude for the food distribution improvements on their homeworld, Jin Wu announced. Their population has increased by 12% in the past year, and their agricultural output has reached pre-war levels. The Kalari Queen stood and bowed in the human style that had become the standard diplomatic protocol. "The Hive is grateful for the wisdom and fairness of human administration," she said through her translator. "Our young are learning well in the schools that humans have provided for us." Similar reports came from other species. The Vorthak had contributed their crystal technology to human space exploration efforts. The Nexari were sharing their historical archives to help humans understand the galaxy's past. Even the Altarians were slowly rebuilding their society under human guidance after the devastation of the war. Jinwoo listened to each report with the careful attention of a ruler who understood. That power came with responsibility. The human government had chosen to be firm but fair with their former captors. They demanded obedience and cooperation, but they also provided protection and opportunity for species that proved their loyalty to the new order. After the formal presentations ended, Jinwoo walked to the memorial wall that honored the humans who had died during the slavery years. Millions of names were carved into the black stone along with the worlds where they had worked and died under alien authority. The memorial served as a reminder of why humans had fought so hard to achieve victory and why they could never allow themselves to be vulnerable again. Boram joined him at the memorial. "Do you ever wonder what would have happened if the aliens had chosen differently?" she asked. "If they had offered partnership instead of slavery?" Jinwoo considered the question carefully. "Perhaps we would have built something together that was greater than what any species could achieve alone," he said. "But they made their choice when they voted for our enslavement. We made ours when we decided to survive and eventually triumph." The Payai truth was that humanity had become something different during their long struggle for freedom. They had learned to be harder and more calculating than they had been before the slavery began. The innocent species that had once dreamed of peaceful exploration among the stars had been transformed into conquerors who understood that survival sometimes required the complete destruction of one's enemies. But they had also learned mercy and wisdom that their former captors had never possessed. The galaxy under human rule was more just and prosperous than it had ever been under alien authority. The species that had once fought endless wars now worked together on projects that benefited everyone. Children of former enemies played together, in schools that taught cooperation instead of competition. As Jinwoo returned to his offices, he received reports from the exploration fleets that were pushing the boundaries of known space even further. Human ships were discovering new worlds and new species that would have the choice to join the galactic community as equals or face the same fate as those who had chosen to become humanity's enemies. The galaxy had asked Earth for war when they voted for human extinction. Humanity had responded by bringing ruin to every civilization that had opposed them, but from that ruin, they had built something better than what had existed before. The species that had once enslaved humanity now lived under the protection and guidance of the very people they had tried to destroy. The irony was complete and perfect. The aliens who had claimed that humans were too inferior to govern themselves now depended on human wisdom to manage their own affairs. The species that had scattered human families across the galaxy now sent their children to human schools to learn the values that would shape the future. Earth had not simply won the war that was forced upon them. They had transformed victory into a new kind of civilization that was stronger and more just than anything the galaxy had known before. The chains that had once bound humanity had become the foundation of an empire that would endure for thousands of years. The ruin that humans brought to their enemies was total, but it was also purposeful. From the ashes of alien pride, they had built a galaxy where such injustice could never happen again.